Tourists. Tourists are people who travel for pleasure. They move from their place of residence to their temporary destination in search of the pleasures offered by the destination or those of the trip itself. This is why tourists are not typical of any place. In summer times, in warm areas, on beaches, and in swimming pools it is common to see tourists with light clothes and swimsuits not characteristic from any specific geographical place. They vary in design and material, but solve common human needs throughout the world.
Hello, Miguel. My name is Irit Batsri, and I'm happy to have a conversation with the artist Miguel Escobar on the occasion of his video, An Image of a Façade, showing at the Museu de Arte Contemporânea, Museu de Chiado in Lisbon, as part of Loops.Expanded. Loops.Expanded is a network of curators and organization related to video art and moving image. We're exploring the meaning of working in a loop. Loop as a conceptual framework for moving image. And Miguel's work is being shown as part of an exhibition with 7 artists. Each artist's film is being shown for 3 weeks at the museum. Miguel, maybe you can tell us a little bit about An Image of a Façade. It's one frame of a film, a commercial film, that you have worked on.
Well, the parts from this one film still you just commented, it's a film still of a movie called Blow. Yeah, what caught my attention of this particular film still, maybe I should say that I already have an interest in how things are represented, and also since 1 or 2 years ago, this has also become more particular on how places are represented. And well, the particularity that caught my attention with this film still was that a place that I visited some years ago, a city called Cartagena, was represented in the film still with some strangeness. There was something that didn't quite fit my idea of the place in the film still. And the film still belongs to a sequence in the movie in which a new location, this new location of Cartagena, is introduced. So the sequence is a pan sequence that goes like through the space, through this new space, and kind of sets you in the new location. So it was, let's say, perfect for me, since I was interested much more in the space itself. In the location itself, and not so much in the actions or the context of the movie.
You are deconstructing the image, this frame, into many layers, and then you are navigating between the layers. Maybe you can tell us both about the conceptual and the technical part of this. For me, the navigation created something that is a little bit like surveillance. Like I had the feeling almost of a surveillance camera going inside the image and looking at details that we would not notice before. And so maybe you can tell us about this process.
Yeah, so the process of the work started with making cutouts on this film still, trying to isolate the elements and also writing about them, because I was interested in seeing what was the relation of these elements with Cartagena or with any other geographical location. So I started cutting out parts of the frame and describing them and looking for relations. And at some point, I also had the suspicion that this strangeness was due to perspective or like due to the general composition of the image or general composition of the set.
Mm-hmm.
And I started in 3D software trying to reconstruct this original disposition of elements. And this process was also interesting for me. It was a bit paradoxical because although I was trying to reconstruct the original disposition of elements, I ended up breaking the space sensation of the film still. And with this, I mean, when the camera moved in this space, to get a close up, to give a close up of one of the elements, you really perceive the lack of volume of objects and like this whole space that is missing in the film still.
It becomes completely flat. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's very evident that these are images and not the objects themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it was ironic, let's say, because I was trying to reconstruct the original disposition of elements, but I ended up destroying the space sensation of the image.
On the Caribbean coast of the country of Colombia there is another city by the name of Cartagena, generally referred to as Cartagena, Colombia, to avoid confusion. In this specific case the subtitle sets this still image of the movie Blow from the year 2001. Same as subtitles overlap images, facades overlap buildings. Facades are the outer face of the buildings. They are classifiable by their architectural style which, like subtitles,
in your work, you're interested in the way we perceive images and the way that images are built. And because of that, I guess you're concentrating on two particular notions, which is the notion of space and the notion of time. And in a way, you're deconstructing these two elements in all your work. I noticed that in some of the work you're working on fictional images, like in an image of a façade, but in other works you have worked with historical images, images that come from newsreel. And I was wondering if you can tell us about the difference in working with fictional images and images that are supposed to represent the truth.
To let's say documents, visual documents, and images related to films, and let's say fictional. Anyhow, I came to both of them looking for more or less the same questions, and these questions are most of the time related to how things are represented or how things appear in an image. And in that sense, even if I'm looking to a film, my attention is most of the time to these aspects. So like most of the time to the human intentions and these sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's for instance in image of a facade. The fact that the image was made in Los Angeles and not in the place of Cartagena itself was very, very important. Or who made the image or in which context the image was made was very important. Because it seems to me like this that these fictional images can also crystallize human preconceptions and human ideas of places.
Do you find yourself, for example, questioning in the same way an image that you know it's fictional and an image that is a historical image that was recorded in a particular place and time? Do you question them in the same way?
Yeah, let's say not in the same way, but my intention while looking at these images and my emphasis is always put on these human decisions. And for image of a facade, for instance, for me, it was very important that because there was this production from the distance. I mean, the production of this film, Blow, was made not in the location it is supposed to represent, but somewhere else. And because of this distance, the full film crew had to come with a lot of decisions on how to dress up, let's say, the place of Los Angeles to be similar to their idea of Cartagena. And so because of this impossibility to go to Cartagena, they had to draw from their own preconceptions of how Cartagena is seen. How does it look like?
Speaking of places, you were born in Colombia and you worked there, and recently, about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, since 2018.
You have moved to Belgium, where you're studying and working. Do you find that the change of place has changed your work, and in what way it did, if it did change your work?
Yeah, indeed. There is a clear change, a clear turn in my work in 2018 since I moved in here. So it does affect, at least for me, it did affect a lot the way I work. Also because, as you pointed out a previous time when we were talking, for me it's also very important how the viewers perceive my work. And this change of context involves also a change of on the way things are going to be perceived.
Yeah.
But so before I did have I was very interested in local narrations. Of course, very much interested in the images related to these local narrations. And in here, this had to change because I didn't have the same people around. I was not producing for the same kind of public, and for some reason it became very important for me, the place from which I was producing, the actual geographical place.
An image of the blue sky does not place anywhere. The tone of the sky varies depending on time of the day, season, and weather. But blue sky is a similar blue tone in every part of the world, so by seeing this blue sky you are not situated in any geographical place.
Speaking about this, I know that you are from Cali, and I know that there's an artist and a place that are very important for the Colombian artist. All my friends, of course, talk about him and so on, which is Oscar Munoz, and the space that he instituted, which is Lugar a Duda. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about this influence and artist.
Oscar's work also somehow influenced mine, because his work is very puts a lot of attention in the way images are made, and also like their relation to memory
and the historical connotation, and also the question of erasure, right? The question of memory and forgetting.
Yeah, indeed. He very often comes with this paradoxical thing of making photos to talk about how the impermanence of memories.
Yeah.
And this was very, very interesting for me, also because well, as I just told, I was interested in narrations, and well, narrations and local events have this ephemeral kind of aspect attached to them. But also, and this is something that seems to be a constant in my work, I put a lot of attention in media. So like these terms of as support, which can be a photographic support or paper for a drawing, or support as a medium in the case of a film. are also very important to me, are like a very strong load in my work.
Yeah, I connected to our previous conversation in which we were talking about influences, and you mentioned Harun Farokhi.
Yeah.
Maybe you can speak about other influences from literature or moving image.
Yeah, indeed, Farokhi is well, finding Farokhi, let's say, made a huge impression on me. And I think the voice, or not the voice, let's say, but the way I write sometimes have this influence from Farokhi, this very logical kind of way of constructing sentences to then repeat them, for instance, or like to make small changes to kind of question themselves is something that happens often while I'm writing. But somebody or another artist that could have been important for me is Hito Steyr.
Mm-hmm.
Who's also kind of German, a Japanese German, let's say.
Yeah.
And also for the case of this work that we're talking about, for an image of a facade, Alexander Kluge was also very important. But like,
all German.
yeah, indeed, that's strange. Yeah, yeah. I started writing and isolating, cutting out elements from the image. And at some point I realized, well, while I tried to make a video out of this first approach, I immediately realized a relation between this and an introduction to one of his films. So like this, I think it's the second part of a film about the capital that Alexander Kluge made.
Mm-hmm.
And in my work, there's a kind of a joke or like a reference because of this finding, because the two works have this dissection aspect very much in common. So that's also one important reference for the work.
You were talking about the text, and one thing that strikes me is that the image in your work is completely uncertain. It's a place to propose doubt. You deconstruct it to many, many layers. It becomes like almost a material. And on the other hand, the text being read by a very official voice sound very authoritative, like suggesting that this is suggesting that it's expressing something that is universal truth. So maybe you can speak about the difference in your treatment of text and image.
About the voiceover and like its relation to image, would also be interesting to say that the voiceover emphasizes a lot relations of the elements described in geographical places. There is a structure that kinds of is repeated in the text, in the voiceover, sorry, that is giving a description and then finishing with a relation of the element described in a geographical place. And this can have the effect of kind of setting the viewer in a completely different place every time a different element is described. Mm-hmm. And so you feel with this video, you can feel at some point in this kind of nowhere space, in this black space, habitating several different geographical locations, and at the same time inhabiting none of them, which is also maybe one more layer of this dissection of the place represented.
Yeah. An image of a facade is being shown as part of Loops.Expanded. And when I've seen your video as part of our open call, I was very interested in it because it's a 12-minute work in which the beginning rejoins the end in a perfect loop. So I was curious to hear about how you were working with this idea of a loop.
One of my interests at the beginning of the work, while I was just starting to work on it, was the idea of taking one very ephemeral, an image with a very short duration, taking it out of the movie and kind of open it or stretching its duration as much as possible. And that's how the work, let's say, operates in relation to the original footage. It takes this image with 1/25 or 1/30th of a second, that is its duration, and it stretches its duration to find the things that would normally be overlooked in such duration.